You'll be invited to annual events featuring public television celebrities like Bill Moyers or Jim Lehrer or Ken Burns. You'll receive station tours and an opportunity to watch the taping of Washington Week in Review or Around Town. You'll receive a handsome leadership tote bag and the welcome kit, which includes WETA's lending library catalog. And that brings me to my favorite club benefit. If you miss a program or forget to turn on the VCR, you just call our hotline and request a recording of the show through the club's lending library. We'll send it to you with a stamped, self-addressed envelope for return. You watch the program and send it back. It's as simple as that. These are little accoutrements that may entice you to become a member of the Leadership Circle. We want you to do it, mostly because of the great programming it'll provide for you and for others. So call us at 703-379-1300. Join us today.
Well, Paul, your support of WETA extends not only the work you do for WETA, but also as a member of the Leadership Circle.
Yes, I've been a member, I think, 15, 20 years now, I think, or something like that, yeah.
Well, if you are one who can see your way clear to that level of membership to WETA, making that pledge of $1,000, we hope you'll do so now. However, every amount is welcome and very much needed at WETA. You might want to consider a pledge, for example, of $100. And once again, we'll send to you, as our thank you, the VHS cassette of Jackie Behind the Myth, the program that we're enjoying this evening. Now, if you weren't convinced when you heard us earlier, I hope that that last segment of the program left you with a positive feeling about public television. If it did, I ask you to remember the following things. Public television survives on individual and corporate contributions. WETA doesn't air commercials because you like it that way, and we know that. So we need your financial support to make up for the lack of advertising dollars. WETA presents great programs 365 days a year, but costs continue to rise each year, and your support helps us stay on track. And your membership with WETA brings you a host of great benefits. A one-year subscription to WETA magazine, for example, our member decal, and more great programs for you to enjoy on WETA. So what are you waiting for? Make a pledge right now. It's a great investment of your money. Your pledge of $120 or $75 or $100 will pay you back in dividends when you enjoy more great programs this year. Call us now at 703-379-1300. How could I not remember that?
Exactly. You wake up screaming in the middle of the night. Don't let this opportunity to show your support for Jackie Behind the Myth pass you by. Give us a call right now, won't you please, and pledge. Basic membership is still only $35 a year for great programming on WETA. Your pledge will make it all possible in the coming year. The easiest way to show your support is by charging your pledge on American Express, Visa, or MasterCard. Don't wait any longer. Make the commitment now, 703-379-1300. Before we continue, I'd like to thank two of our wonderful supporters. We'd like to thank our volunteers from the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network who've given up their time here tonight to be with us. We'd also like to thank our friends at the Hay Adams Hotel.
Hello, I'm Hans Brumand, General Manager of the Hay Adams Hotel, where nothing is overlooked but the White House. Because our hotel is a historic landmark in Washington, D.C., we understand the value of preserving other important institutions in our area. That's why the Hay Adams is a proud and continuing sponsor of WETA. Please join our partnership with your individual support. Thank you.
If you've made a pledge to WETA, we want to thank you for your support and want to remind you, if you're considering making a pledge, consider a pledge of $100. We'll send you your own video cassette copy of Jackie Behind the Myth, program that we're enjoying this evening. Or for a pledge of $120, we have Jackie, Her Life in Pictures, this spectacular volume full of historical photographs, intimate photographs that give you a real sense of this remarkable life. That's a pledge of $120. Thank you for your support of WETA. We're going to go back to more of Jackie Behind the Myth. Enjoy.
If you prefer, send your check to WETA, Post Office Box 2600, Washington, D.C. 20013, or pledge on our website at www.weta.org. This is WETA, Washington, D.C.
She had no place to go.
She had no home.
And I went to Harriman and persuaded him to move out of his house in Georgetown into a hotel, and Jackie took over the Harriman's house for several months.
The world was still in shock and mourning, and was obsessed with the details of the assassination. For the rest of her life, she dreaded November 22nd and the nightmares that day brought back to her.
I'm a living wound. My life is over. I have nothing more to give, and some days I can't get out of bed. I cry all day and all night until I'm so exhausted.
Mr. President?
You just come over and put your arm around me. That's all you do. Let me tell you how much you mean to all of us and how we can carry on if you give us a little strength.
But you know what I want to say to you about that letter? I know how rare a letter is in a president's handwriting. Do you know that I've got more in your handwriting than I do in Jack's now?
No, you got the president relying on you, and this is not the first one you had. So there are not many women, you know, run around with a good many presidents. So you got the biggest job of your life.
She ran around with 2 presidents. That's what they'll say about me.
She was the most famous widow in the world. She had to maintain her sanity and reinvent a life for herself and her children.
She said to me, Pierre, there's only one thing I can do now. I've got to take care of these kids. I got to make sure they move forward in life. And because if I don't do that, they'll totally be linked to their father's death. And this is something that they've got to do for their future of their life.
Mr. Salinger waiting on 9-2.
Can you hold on to your chair?
Yes, sir.
Would it be just terrible to ask Ms. Kennedy to be ambassador to Mexico?
Oh, I think the idea is terrific. The only thing I'm going to sleep on is what would be the effect of asking her.
She just walk out on that balcony and look down at them, and they just pee all over themselves every day.
Well, there's no question of the impact it would have. It would be fantastic.
She was always nicer to me than anybody in the Kennedy family. She just made me feel like I was a human being. I think it'd give her something to do, and I think her husband up there in heaven looked down and said, my God, he saw she had it just like I did.
She turned down his offer and decided to return to the city she had always called home.
If you're a person of real discrimination, you're bound to prefer New York beside the Metropolitan Museum than anything in Washington.
Her apartment overlooked Central Park, where she used to play as a child when visiting her father.
I'll start it today. You come down here to see me. If you don't, I'm going to come out there to see you.
Oh, Mr. President.
And I'll just have all those motorcycle cops around your house, and it'll cause you all kinds of trouble. And
I can't come down there. I wanted to tell you, I've really gotten hold of myself. You know, I'll do anything for you. I'll talk to you on the phone. I'm so scared I'll start to cry again.
Oh, you never cried? Honey, I never saw anyone as brave as you.
She wanted to keep low all the time. She didn't want to get into a high position. She had a lot of problems with photographers who were after her all the time.
She was very secretive. She didn't want her personal life to be known by anybody.
Six months after the assassination, she finally returned to Jack's grave on what would have been his 47th birthday. She wanted the world to remember her husband's achievements, not his murder.
I would like to say a few words about the John Fitzgerald Kennedy Library. Now he will not see the library to be erected in his name, but his parents and brothers and sisters and I all look on it as his memorial. We want a beautiful building to rise along the banks of the Charles.
Jackie led the Kennedy family on a search for the right architect and invited a most prestigious group to the compound in Hyannis to hear how each might envision the Kennedy Library.
Put yourself back to 1964. The name Kennedy just ricocheted all over the world. All over the world. China, all the way, Europe, Russia, everywhere. So that was probably the most sought-after commission. And I was fortunate to be included among them. Why, I don't know. But anyway, I was. I'd done very little then, outside of low-cost housing.
Over the weekend, they listened to dozens of presentations, promising a decision soon.
Mrs. Kennedy's advisor, they called me and said that you've been chosen. It's a question of personal chemistry. She felt comfortable, and she wanted to be part of it, and she must have thought that I was the person that she could work with. That actually is what made our firm. I really believe that, and therefore made me as an architect. Because until then, I was not known at all. And after that, people became much more interested in my work.
More than a decade would pass before the library was built. Bobby Kennedy became an important support to Jackie and her children.
He has the kindest heart in the world.
She involved them in these ceremonies so they would remember their father as an admired leader.
Got a call from her secretary friend and asking would I be interested in doing the children. I went over to her apartment, met the children. We figured out some poses, took some photographs, did some studies, and started on these portraits. I remember she looked at it and she said, do you mind if I get in the portrait too? So it became 3. She said, you know, there is no portrait of me in the White House. Would you be interested in doing that? So I did a number of studies of her, and we started working on that portrait. Halfway through, she said, you know, there's none of Jack. Would you be interested in that? And I said, well, surely. I'll think it over for 2 seconds. She said very carefully, I don't want to see what everybody else does with him. That looks like a postage stamp that could be on a stamp, you know. She wanted something that would grab people, you know, and make them think about the man, you know. This was to be the one for the White House. I felt it was just too somber. That woman, as she was, a little hesitant, a little frightened, a little tense, and I think this caught it. It was the one that she really wanted for the White House, not the one that's there.
The Royal Cambodian Palace, where Mrs. John F. Kennedy comes to fulfill a childhood dream. Accompanied by Prince Sihanouk, she watches the royal elephants approach. The feeding of the giant animals is a tricky business, and Mrs. Kennedy is both startled and delighted by the peppy royal pachyderms.
Because of American troop involvement in Vietnam, Cambodia had broken off diplomatic relations with the United States. Yet Prince Sihanouk admired President Kennedy and invited Jackie to dedicate a road named in her husband's honor. She also wanted to visit the majestic ruins of Angkor Wat, center of the mysterious Khmer civilization. Privately, she asked Prince Sihanouk to intercede on behalf of American prisoners being held by North Vietnam. He said he could help the United States if it would agree to stop bombing and withdraw its forces from Southeast Asia.
Oh, goodness.
Sadly, a prisoner was executed during her visit. Life is unfair. Her husband said that in a press conference about Vietnam 1 week before he was shot. She opposed the escalating war in Southeast Asia and openly joined with Robert Kennedy against it.
While the war goes on in Vietnam, this burden has to be carried equally by all of our people.
As he moved to center stage, she stood by him and supported his bid for the presidency in 1968. She began helping Bobby the way she helped Jack, giving him quotes from Shakespeare and the Greeks to use in his speeches.
I want the United States of America to stand for hope instead of despair, for reconciliation of men instead of the growing risk of world war.
So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
An assassin's bullet felled King as he stood on the balcony of this motel. And all over America, black ghettos exploded in rage and grief. Even the nation's capital was seared.
For those of you who are black and are tempted to be filled with hatred and mistrust, I would only say that I can also feel in my own heart the same kind of feeling. I had a member of my family killed, but he was killed by a white man.
When Jackie heard of King's assassination, she flew to Atlanta and went directly to the home of Coretta Scott King.
I was looking at those faces, and I realized that they know death. They see it all the time, and they're ready for it.
But we have to make an effort in the United States. We have to make an effort to understand, to get beyond or go beyond these rather difficult times.
Do you know what I think will happen to Bobby? The same thing that happened to Jack. There is so much hatred in this country. I've told Bobby this, but he isn't fatalistic like me.
My thanks to all of you, and now it's on to Chicago, and let's win there.
The news came to her by phone in the middle of the night. She flew from New York to Los Angeles to join the vigil. The hospital. Plane ride back with his body. The funeral to accommodate a nation in mourning. Her children losing the man who had tried to be a father to them. Too much to live through a second time. Bobby Kennedy's body was carried by train to Arlington National Cemetery to join his brother.
My favorite poet was Aeschylus. He once wrote, "Even in our sleep, pain which cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart, until in our own despair, against our will, comes wisdom through the awful grace of God."
If they're killing Kennedys, my kids are #1 targets. I want to get out of this country.
Her life had become the world's soap opera, and the world was shocked when she announced she would marry Aristotle Onassis.
Mrs. Kennedy, are you very happy?
I got a call from Steve Smith. He said, you got to come see me immediately because we don't want Jackie to marry Harry Onassis. We want her to stay totally linked to John F. Kennedy. And so I had this meeting with him. And he said the family was very, very unhappy and everything else. And finally, he said, well, there's one thing you could do. Maybe you could convince her to have the marriage in Greece, not in the United States.
Nobody could understand why I married Harry. But I just couldn't live anymore as the Kennedy widow. It was a release. Freedom from the oppressive obsession the world had for me.
With a fleet of ships and an airline at his command, Onassis provided the luxury of privacy for Jackie and her children.
Aristotle Onassis rescued me at a time when my life was engulfed in shadows. He meant a lot to me.
They lived together on Scorpios, his private island. He vowed to treat her like royalty. From now on, the press would call her Jackie O.
When she married Onassis, she had worked out a deal with him that she would spend maybe 9 months in New York so she could be with the kids.
And she was, of course, recognized everywhere immediately. She was one of those celebrities you couldn't possibly miss her looks anywhere.
I liked being with her. I liked listening to her. I loved looking at her. Yes, well, she certainly was the only one who physically could give Audrey Hepburn a run for the money.
If people in the streets would come up and speak to her, she would never answer. She would just look at them with a marvelous sort of half smile and enigmatic look, and they would finally stop and move away. It was a very interesting technique, and I asked her about it, and she said, well, if I answer them, I can never get rid of them.
If you were an outsider and you wanted to speak with her, it was at your peril. You might get the frozen look.
Well, none of us like to be forgotten, and none of us like to be mobbed. People very rarely get just the amount of publicity they want. They either get too much or too little. She got too much.
I suddenly got a call from Jackie. She said, I want you to come to our island in Greece because I want you to spend at least an hour a day with John Jr. and Caroline and give them all the information that you have about what their father did from the beginning of his political career through his presidency and everything else, because they don't have a lot of things about their father, and this would be very helpful. So that's what I did. I spent a month on that island, and I was with the kids every day, and...
Something interesting there, huh?
Remarkable.
Some remarkable footage that many of us haven't seen before, but all in one package here on this wonderful program, Jackie Beyond the Myth. Good evening again. I'm Paul Anthony with Dan Devaney, and we're here to ask your support for not only this program, but everything you see here on public television. Pledge $100 or more, and it'll be matched this time, dollar for dollar, by Jay and Sharon Rockefeller, okay? So if you pledge 100, it becomes 200 to us here at WETA. We don't get that money, however. It lies out there in limbo, like email, you know. It's kind of like in the ether until it's sucked into your computer. I don't know how that happens, but that's it. The same way with matching money. So the $100 pledge becomes 200 now because of the Rockefellers' generosity. Daniel?
You might want to consider this, that $100 match can come in quite handy right now, because for a pledge of $100, we'll send with a very special thank you the program that we're watching this evening and enjoying, Jackie Behind the Myth, a VHS copy, your very own copy, so you can enjoy this program over and over again, share it with friends and family, and that $100 pledge will be matched dollar for dollar, doubled thanks to the match that's in effect right now. For a pledge of $120, Jackie, Her Life in Pictures, a splendid book that chronicles the life of Jackie Kennedy Onassis with some wonderful photographs that you probably have not seen before. So this is available for a pledge of $120. You can charge that pledge on American Express, Visa, or MasterCard. There you can see some of the pictures there. A very intimate portrait of this remarkable woman throughout her eventful life. And that's just some remark. We were looking at it earlier, and many of the pictures that we were looking at, I've never seen before. And we know that you'll enjoy this as well. It's a $120 pledge. Jackie, her life in pictures. Call us now at 703-379-1300. Paul.
You see those pictures of John also, and you know, who would know?
That's right.
What fate awaited him at a very young age. The celebration of our cultural and political heritage on television is not a new concept at WETA. We broadcast a host of wonderful programs. Some of the most talked about were shows like The Kennedys, TR, and The American Presidents. But our list of great political, documentary programs doesn't end there. All of these programs have been a treat for WETA audiences. Now, because of strong membership support, we have Jackie Behind the Myth. If you want this string of great cultural shows to continue, do your part right now and support them. Call 703-379-1300 with your pledge. It only takes a moment to become a member of WETA, and even less time if you charge your pledge on Visa, MasterCard, or American Express. Charging is the quickest way to join, and you'll enjoy the benefits of membership right away. Or you can request an invoice and pay by check. Either way, you'll become an active member of WETA in less than 2 minutes. Call the number on your screen and make a pledge right now. Then sit back and enjoy the programs you made possible on WETA.
More good reasons to become a member of WETA. And once again, I want to remind you that during this break, we have a very special match in effect. Pledges of $100 or more are matched dollar for dollar thanks to Jay and Sharon Rockefeller. Your $100 pledge is doubled in support of WETA. It becomes $200 of support just like that thanks to that very generous match. Once again, a $100 pledge will send to you your own copy of Jackie Behind the Myth. Available for a pledge of $100 on video cassette. For a pledge of $120, we have Jackie, Her Life in Pictures, a spectacular coffee table book of remarkable documentary in pictures of Jackie Kennedy Onassis. Just a way that you can extend your enjoyment of this program. The important thing is that you take action in support of WETA right now at 703-379-1300. Paul.
I am happy to report that all of our operators are busy right now.
Great.
So if you get a busy signal, don't say, oh, I gave it a shot, I'm not going to get it, it's walking away. You can see that 800 number on the screen, 877-202-8178. Call that number if you get a busy signal when you call 703-379-1300. If you're out of our coverage area, of course, and you want to make a toll-free call, then by all means call the 877 number at the very beginning. But call with your support here for public television. Some of you are already members of WETA, like myself. And from time to time during these membership drives, we air programs where you say, oh, boy, that was so good, that if I wasn't a member, I'd pledge right now, to become one. Well, you know what? You can still do that by giving an additional pledge. So if you're a member, you call up and tell our operator, I'm already a member, I want to give an additional $50 because I am so moved, touched, edified, educated, whatever, about the program I'm watching right now that I feel moved to give some more money. They'll be very happy to take you up on it, okay?